You've probably heard me say that the best stepmom support doesn't just focus on stepmom life. I've found that the best stepmom support goes deeper than simply understanding the complexities of the stepmom role. It's more than learning ways to co-parent and manage the ex and foster a relationship with your stepkids and find your place within it all. That's why now I'm offering 360-degree stepmom life coaching and mentorship. This is a 3-month mentorship tailored to your unique life and your unique goals. This is next level coaching and support for those who are ready to dive in and create major change in their life. This mentorship includes goals and aspirations outside of your stepfamily, including your self-care practices, your rhythms, personal growth, and confidence. It's for stepmoms who are really ready to take control of their life. It's for the stepmoms who want to redefine their stepmom experience and look at their stepmom triggers and experience in an entirely different way. Who are you outside of motherhood and stepmotherhood? Who do you want to be? What does your best self look like? And what is preventing you from showing up as that person right now? That is what this mentorship is all about. If you want to work with me one-on-one for 3 months and to dive into all of this and completely transform your stepmom experience, head to www.jamiescrimger.com/coaching to learn more. This is an investment. This is a commitment. There's limited spots available. In addition to bi-weekly calls, we connect through voice and email support whenever you need it. It's you and me for 3 months. For all the info, head to www.jamiescrimger.com/coaching. Hey, it's Jamie Scrimger. When I became a stepmom, I quickly realized that while moms are encouraged to keep it real, there's a big double standard when it comes to stepmoms. So I decided to start the conversation myself. Thriving as a stepmom doesn't just come from conversations about being a stepmom, though. Here, we dive into marriage, relationships, personal growth, and more. My mission? Inspire you to live a kick-ass life while bringing you along as I create my own. This is the KICK-ASS Stepmom Podcast. Hello. Welcome to the KICK-ASS Stepmom Podcast. Jamie here. Excited to bring this episode to you today. We're talking about negotiating with a narcissist or a high conflict personality. Obviously, if you've ever tried to do this, it is not an easy situation to be in. So that's why I brought on Rebecca Zung, a globally sought after expert in the art of negotiation and high conflict communication. She is a best-selling author. She is rated in the top 1% of attorneys in the US. Today we're talking about how to negotiate with a narcissist and win. Rebecca is also the founder of the proprietary SLAY method for negotiating with narcissists, and her programs have transformed thousands of lives in more than 100 countries and on every continent. This is a good one. Let's dive in. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, I am very excited to talk to you. This has been a long time coming. And so you know what? I think the best place to start, and I think it's always the best place to start, I want to hear your story and how you started doing what you're doing, because you were a high net worth lawyer and then transformed into the work you do now. So I'd love to kind of hear how that all came about.
You know, it's so interesting because I would say for the longest time I said, oh, it's because I had a narcissistic business partner. You know, I had been in law and then I had transitioned initially to become more of an entrepreneur. And then I had a narcissistic business partner after that. And then I kind of really started diving into narcissism. And that was really kind of how it came about. I started studying YouTube and I started studying about how to do digital courses and all that sort of thing. But then as I wrote my book, Slay the Bully, How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win, I realized as I started to go back and started to think about my whole story, about my whole life, I realized it actually started probably in childhood. I was bullied as a kid for being Chinese. I'm half Asian. And I remember being on the playground and being, teased and taunted and feeling so voiceless at that time and not speaking up for myself and not feeling like I knew what to do. And I think that was a lot of the reason why I became an advocate in the first place. It was like advocate on behalf of people who didn't feel like they had a voice. And it was when I rose to become pretty successful at that. And it was when I went into a partnership with somebody who was like a peer that I felt like, oh, what's going on? Because it was a covert narcissist. And I didn't really know what a covert narcissist was at the time. And I didn't know that narcissists could be female. And, there were all sorts of situations going on there, dynamics that I didn't know about at the time. And I felt once again like that kid on the playground, even though I had worked through all sorts of things as an adult. And I thought all that stuff was long behind me. And so I think that it's been kind of my whole life, this whole confluence of events that has brought me to this point now.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I love how you can kind of link your childhood and your experiences in business and, friends and all the things into what you're doing now. Right. And I feel like that's the best businesses where we have that story behind it. And then like that need that we had the need. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Like they always say, you're best served to help the person you used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or the other saying is we teach what we need, or we teach what we needed.
What we needed. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Can you tell me what a covert narcissist is?
Sure. I think the best place to start with that is to talk about what a grandiose narcissist is, because a grandiose is the one that everybody, I think, most familiar with. And that's the one that fills the room, the impulsive one, the risk taker that tells everybody how great they are, the boastful one. And I think that's the one that I always thought was a narcissist, kind of more of the male chauvinist pig, the kind of misogynist. I kind of always thought of that as a narcissist myself, even as a lawyer. And I mean, I think the word narcissist has kind of grown in popularity, and more so in the last several years. And so I just never really thought about narcissism much at all. And because it became more prevalent in the last couple of years, hearing the word covert narcissist or covert passive aggressive narcissist was just not something that was in my vernacular. And so a covert narcissist is every bit as much of a narcissist as a person who doesn't feel like they have any internal sense of value, so they still want to get value from external sources. That's why they don't have empathy, right? But they're much more passive aggressive in the way that they go about things. And so on the surface, they might seem much more kind. They might even seem like a victim in some ways. But the way that they get their sense of feeling of value is much more underhanded types of things. I always say there's plausible deniability. The covert narcissist is like, I call it clean hands. Like they're very good at keeping their hands clean, and it's death by 1,000 cuts. And in some ways, I think that they're much more dangerous because they're very good at staying under the radar. So they might like leave you off of an email chain inadvertently. And oh my God, I don't know how that happened. I call them the pearl grabbers. Like, what? Me? I don't know how that happened, that sort of thing. Or they might just they're very, very good at saying something nice to you while also putting you down. So it's like, wow, congratulations on getting that promotion. It's so great that you were able to achieve that given, your background, something like that.
I'm a huge lover of Element. It is my go-to electrolyte drink and a longtime sponsor of the podcast. So yes, Element is a tasty electrolyte drink with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means lots of salt and no sugar, no artificial ingredients, no coloring, no BS. It is formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and is perfectly suited if you're following a keto, a low carb, or a paleo diet. I just did the metabolic reset, which I've shared about on the podcast, and it was totally okay on that as well. Basically, if you're a professional athlete or you're just an everyday mom, it is for you. Element is a huge part of my day-to-day, whether it be rehydrating during workouts, when I'm traveling, after maybe a little too much wine, in my cocktails and my mocktails. Like, I am always popping the Element salt into my drinks. 100 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium. I have one every day. Seriously though, about the cocktails, throw in some lime Element salt with soda, tequila, lime, and mint. It is so delicious. So staying hydrated is a crucial and huge priority of mine. And proper hydration isn't just about drinking water. It means having adequate water and salt. And big news, Element just introduced Element Sparkling. So again, no sugar, there's no caffeine in this, all electrolytes. Element Sparkling delivers the same zero sugar electrolyte formulation that I have been telling you guys about, now in a bold 16-ounce can of sparkling water. I couldn't have got better news. This is so exciting. I am such a fan of Element. Already put it in my soda water. So this is just, wow, this just made my life so much easier. Element Sparkling offers health seekers an all-new option to support their health across the board spectrum of occasions. So with each can, you're taking a sip against sugar and stimulant-loaded drinks, and you're turning the tide towards health. I am so pumped for this. To grab some Element, head to www.drinklmnt.com/KICK-ASS Stepmom and get a free sample pack with any drink mix purchase. That's just the drink mix purchase. I love these free sample packs because it just gives you a chance to try all the flavors and decide which one is your fave. Mine is watermelon. Darren loves lime. Head to www.drinklmnt.com/KICK-ASS Stepmom to get a free sample pack with a purchase of a drink mix and keep your eye out for the new Element Sparkling. Seriously, cannot wait. Since red light therapy has become all the rage, I have been dying to get my hands on a red light therapy professional mask, and I recently was able to make that happen. So I've been using the Valfleury Professional LED mask, and I'm loving it. I've become super invested in doing what I can to keep my skin feeling tight and healthy and smooth. You know, I'm coming up on 38, and red light therapy has become a regular part of my regime. So here's the deal. The Valfleury Professional LED mask is medical grade light therapy proven to enhance your natural skin. So the mask emits 3 clinically proven wavelengths of red, yellow, and blue that penetrates deep into the skin. So it stimulates collagen production, it diminishes fine lines and wrinkles, it reduces the signs of sun damage and aging, and just promotes healthier, younger looking skin. The mask has settings for red, blue, and yellow light, which is unreal. So you can just switch the light with a click of the button. So the red light therapy reduces fine lines and wrinkles, reduces the appearance of pigmentation and redness, and just promotes healthier, younger looking skin. Then the yellow light therapy rejuvenates skin cells, smooths inflamed skin, boosts lymphatic flow, and promotes anti-aging. And then the blue light improves skin texture, helps remove sunspots and acne, and even scars that were originally caused by acne. So it's kind of like a 3-in-1. There's no downtime. You just do a 10-minute treatment for 3 to 5 times every week for about 4 to 6 weeks, and then just follow maintenance as desired. I'm already starting to see a difference. I have also been using the 360 LED skincare wand. So picture just a little wand that you put on your skin. And this has actually been my favorite. So the skincare wand combines 4 science-backed skincare treatments in one. And it's this portable, rechargeable tool. So if you're traveling, you can just bring it. No big deal. Super easy. So it has red light therapy, a current, facial massage, and therapeutic warmth. So I've been putting it under my eyes, and you can just kind of go back and forth on your problem areas in just 3 minutes. And this addresses fine lines, puffiness, blemishes, dark circles, dull skin, and maturing skin. So Val Fleury is giving listeners of the KICK-ASS Stepmom Podcast a 20% off their order, which is huge. So if you go to www.valfleuryskin.com, that's www.valfleuryskin.com, and use the code Jamie20 at checkout, you can get 20%. I highly recommend adding the LED face mask and wand into your skincare regime. www.valfleuryskin.com and use the code Jamie20 at checkout for 20% off. Now, I feel like a lot of people in co-parenting relationships can resonate with the covert narcissism, right? Like it's almost, you know what's going on. You know, there's maybe some manipulation or gaslighting or just like lack of empathy or, you know, all of that. But then you almost like can't even prove it. And it kind of makes you feel like you're crazy when you are dealing with it. Does that resonate?
Totally, especially when you've been married to that person, because, you know, a lot of times what they will do is sort of that death by a thousand cuts thing. And, you know, some of the stories will be, I'm going in to Starbucks to get a coffee, and do you want anything? And then they'll come out of the store, you know, like their husband will come out and they will have forgotten to get their coffee. And it's like, oh, well, that's really no big deal. Okay, fine. And it's like just devaluing them in like these little ways over and over and over again. Or, you know, I just forgot to get your thing. And it's like, it's so many little things over time. It's like if you tell somebody about it, like, well, that doesn't seem so bad. Well, that just kind of seems inadvertent. And because the person probably seems very charming or very charismatic to everybody else, right? And so you know that they're devaluing you. You know what's going on at home. But these death by a thousand cuts, it's so powerful. And so you think that you're going crazy. You think, what can I do to tell people about it? But when that discard phase happens, then it starts to heat up. Then that covert narcissist will start to smear you. That's when you start to see the birth of the smear campaign. But what the covert narcissist will do is they're very stealth in how they will start to smear in terms of care almost. So what they will do is like, I'm so worried. I'm so concerned about Susie and her drinking. I'm just worried about her. You know, she's just under a lot more stress lately. And, you know, so she's just drinking a lot more than she usually does. I'm just worried about her. That's all. And so everybody thinks, oh, Tim, he's just such a great guy. He just takes care of her. And, you know, Susie, she's just kind of coming unglued. And, you know, Susie probably is fine, but they just start to paint this picture and they drop these little things around everybody, but they all think that Tim is just this great guy. And that's how they do it. They just smear like that. And so by the time the divorce comes along, well, you know, you'll testify on behalf of me, right? Because she's trying to take the kids from me and paint me as this horrible dad, right? That's what they'll do. They paint themselves as this victim. And it's horrible to live with somebody like that because they make you think you're crazy.
Yeah. And then I imagine what happens because you can only really go through that for so long before you have a reaction, an emotional reaction that may not be your shiniest moment. And then it's like turned back on you and you're the bad guy.
That's exactly what they do. So they pick. And then you finally have a reaction. And then they use that reaction against you and then go, look, there's the crazy one. I told you I told you that she was coming unglued. Well, there it is. Ugh, it's terrible.
Ugh. So would you say gaslighting and narcissism go hand in hand? Is that always?
All of them, all forms, all narcissists gaslight. But there's so many different forms of gaslighting, so many different forms of gaslighting. So when I was writing my book, I actually started realizing that there were so many different forms of gaslighting that I thought, oh my God, you could write a whole book on gaslighting. So the word gaslight actually came from, it was originally a play, then a movie called Gaslight in the 30s. And it was about a husband who was trying to make his wife think that she was crazy. And so what he was doing was he was blowing out gaslights in their house.
Oh.
And she would go, wasn't that just lit? And he would go, no, it wasn't. And she would say, I swear that was just lit. He'd say, nope. And so he was trying to make her doubt her reality. And that is what gaslighting is. They're trying to make you doubt your reality. And so they'll say things like, I'm going away with the guys on the weekend of the 28th or something. Oh, that's the weekend of our anniversary. Oh, well, we talked about that and you agreed to it. Don't you remember? We never had that conversation. Oh, yeah, we had a whole conversation and you agreed. No, we didn't. Oh, yeah, we did. Like, you never had that conversation. They'll swear to you had that conversation. And you start to go, I don't know, maybe we did. And so you start to doubt your reality. So that's one form of gaslighting. Another form of gaslighting is just like invalidating your feelings. So it might be, I don't know, you have a big butt or something like that. And saying that, look how it swishes when you walk or something like that. And you're like, I don't think that's funny. Oh, come on. I was just joking around about it. And you're so oversensitive. And you're like, well, I just don't think that's a funny joke. Oh, you're just way too oversensitive. And invalidating your feelings. That's a form of gaslighting as well. Anything that's invalidating your feelings or making you doubt your reality or anything like that, that's a form of gaslighting.
Yeah. And so often marriages with narcissists don't work out, or, say when it comes to my community, you have stepmoms who are dealing with narcissists and the co-parenting relationship, maybe you're in court with them. How do you recommend dealing with this personality? Because obviously it can be extra stressful and you've got the manipulation, you've got the gaslighting, you've got all of this like passive aggressiveness. How are you supposed to move forward, come up with a deal or a solution in the court system when you're dealing with someone who's just not ready to make that resolution as well?
This is such a broad question. I want to kind of take that in parts, if I may. So I have a SLAY methodology that I use because Slay the Bully is actually an acronym. SLAY is an acronym. So it stands for strategy, leverage, anticipate, and you. I start in the strategy piece as like you have a vision, you got to figure out where it is you want to go. And it's really, really envisioning what it is that you want. But it's so hard for people sometimes when they've been beat up, used, abused, chewed up and all spit out basically to figure out what it is that they want. I tell people short-term, mid-term, long-term goals. Okay. So short-term being what can you do today, next week, baby steps to just kind of get your bearings and get out of the CPTSD, the mental fog. Your brain has been overloaded with the dopamine cortisol mix of toxic stew because of the love bombing and the valuing and the discard and that whole thing that goes on with your brain. And so just first steps first, right? So I'll give you something for that here in a minute. And then midterm is like, how am I going to get this court thing resolved and get free from this thing and get the person X'd out of my life and wipe them from the CPU of my life, hopefully, or at least if I have to co-parent, then at least get something in place where I can breathe. Long term is, all right, now how am I going to have a life? what does life look like for me? What do I actually want from my life? Is it, a house by the beach with a really cute boyfriend? Is it, what do I want from myself? Because they haven't even had a chance to think, what do I actually want? Because it's been all about this other person for so long. Like, what do I want? So that's the first thing for strategy. And then leverage is, how do I create that leverage so I can get there? And then anticipate is being 2 steps ahead of them and, figuring out, how to not take the bait and not be in the thick of it with them. And then why is your offensive mindset, a winning mindset, actually creating authentic power. So, I'll go through each one of those steps here in a moment. I want to start with step 1, the strategy. So step 1, don't run. Step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. So baby steps, first of all. First thing that I tell people to do is put an invisible shield down around them and just start seeing this person as if they're a toddler having a tantrum on the floor, because they really actually are. A narcissist is a person who experienced trauma to the brain as a child. Their limbic system is actually just stuck in whatever age they were when they experienced continuous trauma to the brain, which caused them to have arrested development as a child. And so whenever they get triggered, that causes that limbic system to take back over, and it literally shuts down the cortex part of their brain. That's what happens with narcissists. And when that happens, they're not thinking rationally. They're not thinking reasonably. You're literally dealing with pure on limbic system when you're dealing with a narcissist. And they get triggered by not reasonable things. You're dealing with a person who gets triggered by verbal and nonverbal things. That it could be an eye roll, it could be a body language, it could be a tone of voice, whatever it is. But you have to put this invisible shield down around you, start seeing them as their toddler having a tantrum on the floor, and just start saying things like, this approach is not working for me. We can have this conversation when you can be respectful. I don't care who this person is. You are worthy of having respect. You do not need to engage with somebody who's being disrespectful to you. Period. End of story. And so, I have phrases for people who are dealing with narcissists, which people can get at disarmthenarc.com. But that's step 1. Step 1, don't run. Stand in your power and just stay calm. I say SOS, stop, observe, then speak, take a breath, and then just, look at them and speak. Because, observe, don't absorb, respond, don't react. So that's step 1. That's something you can do today.
I really, really like that.
The second thing is documenting. And I have so many free.
Yeah, I'm going to link all of your resources. They're so great.
So I have another free thing if people want it. Is it okay if I say, so docthenarc.com, I have a whole bunch of free things too. A lot of them are in my book. I like to give free handy guides for people. So at docthenarc.com, I have a handy guide for the things that people should definitely be documenting, and just start documenting certain things as well. And I want you to reframe. This is what I tell people to reframe. It is really annoying when they lie. It's really annoying when they show up late. It's really annoying when they lose their temper on you, or they show up with their video cameras, or they do all the things that narcissists do. I mean, they're just awful. I know. But every time they do those things, I call them gifts. Just say, thank you for the gift, and you document it, because those things become your leverage. Those things become your leverage. So you have your strategy, then you create your leverage. Your leverage it's built into the supply. Narcissists are heinous to deal with. They're extremely difficult to deal with. However, They are very simple. They're very simple creatures. They're extremely easy to understand. They are one-trick ponies. They just go after supply all the time. There's two different types of supply sources. There's what I call diamond level supply, and there's what I call coal level supply. Diamond level supply is their be all and end all. It's their image. It's their reputation. It's how they look to the world. Okay. And so every narcissist has diamond level supply sources. You just got to figure out what those are. It could be more than one. I mean, it's going to be, maybe a new girlfriend. It could be employees, employers. It could be a set of friends, prestigious friends. It could be the judge in a case. But I mean, it could be more than one, but you just got to figure out what that diamond level supply source is. It could be their kids, but when they say they want the kids, it's not because they really want the kids. It's because, it's how they look to the kids. Just think about that. And so if it's a true narcissist, okay. And then there's what I call the coal level supply source. Coal level supply source is manipulation. It's making people squirm. It's making people sweat. It's that passive aggression. It's smearing people to the world. It's that sort of thing. Now, the reason why it's tiered is because when you go to negotiate with a narcissist, they will let go of the coal level supply to protect their diamond level supply at all costs. Always, always. So you've got to figure out a way to threaten a supply source that's more important for them to keep than the supply that they get from manipulating you. What people think is that they just want to win, or that they just want money. That is not true. That's why they're constantly keeping these cases going. That's why they're constantly manipulating you. That's why they constantly make your life as miserable. Every time I hear somebody say, these cases are still going, I can't get them out of my life, I can't get this to stop, I always say, you haven't figured out the diamond supply source yet. You haven't figured out how to get them to stop, because as soon as you do, this will be done.
It's not worth it for them to have that at risk. What would be an example, like in a co-parenting conflict? Is there just...
it could be the new girlfriend's always a good one. They don't want them to know the truth, because they always are telling them that, the old wife is horrible to me. They treated me terribly, blah, 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 and so there's usually always something good, like, that they had sex workers, or that they were an alcoholic, or there was domestic violence involved, or something. I don't know. There's always something that they don't want new girlfriend to know, or that they don't want their work to know. And so there's always a way that you can you have to be careful how you do this, because if you let this person know, then your leverage is gone, right? So what you want to do is, maybe create a situation where you have the depositions for subpoena prepared, but not actually served, and let them know that you're going to talk to these people, and then give them option A, which is settle with you. And then option B is going to be, we're going to have a little conversation over here. And, it's up to you. Depose to expose is what I call it. Or, we can settle it nicely. And then you also use your gifts by creating summaries of lies and inconsistent statements, or summaries of times that they ask for a change in the parenting schedule. There's one trial exhibit that I use in one of my webinars where I show that during a 4-month period, a wife kept track. This husband was acting like, I'm Mr. Dad, and all I care about is my kid, and da, da, da. And they had 98 custody exchanges, and he asked for a change in the schedule 48 times.
And she agreed to it 46 times. So, it also made her look very agreeable, while it also made him like, why asking for a change in the schedule 48 times if you're like Mr. Dad over there? What's so important to you that you need to change the schedule all the time?
Let's take a little trip down memory lane, shall we? Years ago, when I had the idea to start the KICK-ASS Stepmom community, my membership space, so many people in my life thought it was a bad idea. Really? Membership? Do you think stepmoms would be into that? Who joins a membership? I got the same reaction when I started coaching. Coaching, eh? You make money doing that? Who hires a coach? Well, as it turns out, lots of people hire coaches and lots of people join memberships. Within a couple hours of starting my membership, I had over 250 stepmoms sign up. And since then, we have supported thousands of stepmoms from over 30 countries worldwide. I created a multi-six-figure business connecting with women and doing what I love and making a difference. And I do it all on a platform called Kajabi. Kajabi is like a one-stop shop for everything you need to monetize your digital brand. It hosts memberships, podcasts, websites, emails. You can sell digital products, run your coaching program. It keeps everything simple and streamlined in one platform. Everything I do is in Kajabi. If you have an idea to start a digital brand, membership, coaching program, or podcast or whatever, you have to just start. It's nerve-wracking. It's challenging. You feel out of your comfort zone. People in your life may not understand, but you're going to be so glad that you took the chance on yourself. Right now, until January 25th, Kajabi is offering 3 months of Kajabi for $99. This is a huge discount and such a great opportunity to dive in and start creating your dream business. Head to jamiescrimger.com/Kajabi to join now. That's www.jamiescrimger.com/KAJABI to join now. And if you're listening to this past January 25th, all good. You can still check out everything Kajabi has to offer through this link. That's www.jamiescrimger.com/KAJABI to join now. The other piece that you talk about is the importance of being like not having emotions and just being a gray rock when it comes to the narcissist. And I think this is so hard, especially for women who have just been like beat down and they're just like almost in hysterics now and having to deal with this person. But why is this so important? Why do you not want the narcissist to have any inkling that you're emotional or that they're getting to you?
Well, because they get supply from it. And so there's so many different reasons. I mean, first of all, they're never going to leave you alone because that supply is giving them food source. It's an energy source for them.
I think they love it.
So as long as they're getting supply from you, they're going to keep coming around. So, I mean, that's one big reason for it. But I mean, another reason for it is that you don't want to give them anything that they can use against you either, because they're going to be looking for something that they can use against you. So, I mean, one of the things that I always say is remember that every writing, everything you post, everything you send, every time you hit send, every time you hit post, every time you put your hand to something, that's a potential trial exhibit. So just remember, just think of like the judge, like peering over your shoulder every time you hit something, because that's a potential cross-examination conversation. So be very careful.
For sure. What kind of boundaries do you think would be important when you're dealing with a narcissist in your co-parenting relationship? Well, obviously, parallel parenting is probably the best route to go. But
yeah,
are there any other boundaries that you can put in place in order to protect yourself and not the kids as well?
Well, I mean, I always say to use some kind of an app of some sort, anything that has a time and date stamp for sure. I mean, you definitely want to have something that has a time and date stamp. I don't like text messages because they're not great for trial exhibits. I mean, I always say dealing with a narcissist is like getting arrested. Anything you say can and will be used against you. And just expect them to act like a toddler or whatever. I mean, if they're being nice and normal, I would be suspect about it because there's probably some kind of a manipulation going on. Every time somebody says, "Oh, they're being really nice lately," I would just say, "Great.
Buckle up, baby." Yeah, buckle up. And I know that a lot of parents struggle when they've split with the narcissist, they're moving on with their lives. But then as their kids are getting older, their kids are spotting these characteristics and these tendencies, and they're dealing with almost the abuse from the narcissist when they're with their other parent during their time. What's a really good strategy for parents to support their kids when the other parent is a narcissist? Because it can be so hard for these kids going back and forth. They know what's going on. And then there's like this custody agreement. They have to follow the court order. Like there's not really much of an option.
That's so hard. That question is always so tough because I feel like they almost should get coaching from a parenting expert with that. I think that it's harder because I think sometimes what happens with a narcissist is that they choose one child to try to get onto their side. And then sometimes they use one to try to pit, that's not on their side. And I think that I highly recommend to get, if they can, the way I have seen it be most successful, to be honest with you, is if you can get specialists involved from the mental health field who know narcissism and who can be advocates on behalf of the children and be involved with their care on a mental health level and really speak on behalf of the children and just be very vigilant about what's going on from the children's sake. I think that that is the best way.
Yeah, and that can be such a challenge because often you have to get both parents' permission in order to bring these experts in and to support. And then if they don't agree.
For sure. But I mean, if you can get it done at the agreement level, at the signature level, that's the best. I know in Florida now, you only need one parent's signature for that, which is nice.
Very nice.
But I think that I know that's probably not the best answer for what a lot of people want to hear, but if you might have to go to court and get a court order. But honestly, just keep a mental health provider involved for your child's sake. I think that that's really the best. Who knows narcissism and understands.
For sure. Do you feel like, we kind of talked about this at the beginning, narcissism is becoming like this buzzword. It's like everyone's a narcissist. Do you think it's gone too far, or is there validity to this? Because, I think I wrote a post at some point, or I did something on this, like everyone's ex isn't a narcissist. Like sometimes they're just a jerk, or sometimes they're just hard to co-parent, or they have, feelings that they're working through. Like, how can you tell if you're actually dealing with someone who is a narcissist versus someone who is just, a jackass?
I don't know that it matters in some ways, because some people are just high conflict too. But, does the diagnosis actually matter if the person is a very high conflict personality? I mean, if the person's a very high conflict personality and they're just extremely difficult all the time, does it really matter if they're diagnosed as NPD or whatever? I mean, because there is a spectrum here, right? And because it is a spectrum, I don't know if it necessarily matters. I just think that if the person is extremely high conflict, if this person is extremely difficult and they're making your life a living hell.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
I don't know that it necessarily matters.
That's a good point.
I think you have to just proceed as if the person is who they are. And because the court doesn't really care if you use that word anyway. In fact, it's better if you don't. I think when you go to present evidence in court, you need to take, and this is what I do in my SLAY program. I teach people how to present this stuff so that a judge is going to care, because you got to bridge the gap between what you perceive to be this unfair situation that this person has wronged you, has left you in this hell situation, and this gap of the judge sitting there, well, hey, I had statutes over here. And the statutes say very agnostically, I'm dividing assets, I'm dividing custody, I'm dividing time between the children. And most states is 50-50. And most states, I'm going to presume both parents are fine. And that's about it over here. And, maybe there's some child support based on how much you guys make. And that's my job. And I don't really want to get into who did what, and I don't want to hear your stories. And so that's the gap that you guys have to bridge. And so what you want to do is take the factors of the statutes and use them to your advantage to get the judge to hear what you want them to hear. That's what you want to do. So you got to speak their language. You got to speak their language. And that's what I teach you how to do.
Can you give us an example for someone who's like, okay, I think I need this, but I'm not totally sure on what you mean?
Sure. Like in Florida, for example, there's a factor that says which parent is in the best interest statute. So what I teach people how to do is take the best interest statute for your state. Every state has a best interest statute. Okay. So you can pull the statute for your state. You can go on findlaw.com or when you want to do, they're all free, and go, okay, best interest statute, Virginia, best interest statute, whatever state you live in, and find the statute. And every statute's going to have prongs to it or factors. And there's going to be several of them. Okay. And what I teach people how to do in my program is say, okay, create a notebook for each one, like a binder, and go, okay, like in Florida, there's like 17 factors. And one of the factors might be which parent is more likely to foster a close and continuing relationship with the other parent. Okay, so that's a factor. Well, text message from one parent to the other that says, mommy is a piece of shit. Well, that's not fostering a close and continuing relationship. We'll just stick that one, file that one right over in here. And then, when you've got a whole bunch of those, well, then you just present that. And now that becomes a summary of times that daddy did not foster a close and continuing relationship. That becomes a summary. And then you can hand these things to your lawyer, and then you're like doing your job for the lawyer, because the lawyer has to make these arguments. And instead of handing your lawyer like volumes of stuff for them to, you go pay the paralegal, $200 an hour to go through volumes of stuff, you're actually giving them something that's actually going to be worthwhile and makes the case for them and actually helps them win in mediation too. And that's part of your leverage. And that's what I teach.
I love that whole thing. Speak their language.
That's right. And did you ever have to use the word narcissist? No, you did not.
Mm-hmm.
Then you don't have to. You do not have to. And so what happens in court is the judge now has to go, what parenting plan is in the best interest? Okay, they actually have to go through each one of those factors. This factor favors mother. This factor favors father. This factor weighs equally. And they have to go through each one. They have to make findings of fact as to each one of those factors. That's what they have to do.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand when they're documenting or they're preparing for court. You have to have facts. Like, they don't care about opinions. They don't care about anything that you don't have like clear, concrete facts about. And that's why the documentation piece is so important. And, maybe having a file on your computer where you're constantly updating things, but updating things based on facts, not opinions. Because you could update things all day long and just be documenting things that are never going to be important in court. But if you're doing the facts, then I think that's the right move.
Yeah, which is why I often say that the myth about no-fault divorce, because no fault divorce just means you don't have to prove fault in order to get divorced. It doesn't mean that fault never matters, because fault matters all the time. Fault matters in custody. Fault matters as a waste claim in, when you're dividing assets. I mean, fault matters all the time in divorce. It just means you don't have to prove fault in order to get a divorce.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. I've never thought about it like that. So good. I feel like you have just given people some major legal advice. This is so helpful. And I would love to know, we have your books. I'm going to link everything below. Where can people find you?
Well, my YouTube channel is RebeccaZung.tv. And my Instagram is @RebeccaZung. And they can get my free Crush My Negotiation Prep Playbook at winmynegotiation.com. I think that's a really good place to start. And in addition to some of the other free things, my program is SlayYourNegotiation.com. They can definitely check that out too. And I will give a promo code for 50% off to your
there you go,
viewers and your listeners. And that is SLAY500 for that.
SLAY500. Perfect.
Yes. And that is pretty much it. My website is Rebecca Zung. And that's it. All the things.
Yeah. We will link everything for you. And thank you so much. That is so generous. I'm sure you're going to have people come on over, because we got a lot of people in high conflict relationships right now. They're in the courts. They're trying to wrap it up, and they're, dealing with all kinds of high conflict situations. So this has been so helpful. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
That's it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you could share it with someone in your life who you think could benefit from it. And if you haven't already left a rating and a review on iTunes, it really is the best way to support the show. And if you're craving more real talk and coaching and community, be sure to check out my membership, the KICK-ASS Stepmom community. Head to www.kickassstepmom.com to learn more.